Hello everyone, my name is Anya Hawkins, welcome to my channel. This is a complete video tutorial for my Ptiloris Hat. Pattern for it is available for free in my Ravelry store. In this tutorial, I am assuming here that whoever watches it either has no experience knitting colorwork or has very little of it. I will demonstrate beginner-friendly technique to help you learn. Also keep in mind that I am a continental knitter and I will demonstrate techniques in that way. First, I will tell you a little about how that design has come to be, and then we will work on it together step by step. Feel free to skip ahead using chapters navigation if you're interested only in the actual instructions or some particular part of the instructions. When I was thinking about what my first Ravelry hat pattern should be like, I had in mind 3 requirements. First, the look. I wanted the hat to be in colorwork and I wanted it to be simple, not overly busy. I thought that it should be pretty universal hat that can be worn with anything by anyone. The shaping should also be simple, no folded brim, no pom-pom, just a little bit of slouch. My second requirement was difficulty level. I wanted my pattern to be beginner friendly, so it could be someone's first colorwork project. And to achieve that, I knew that colorwork motif should be not very complicated, and in the rounds where there's actual colorwork, there should be no more than 3 stitches in a row of one color, so the floats at the back would be easy to manage. And my third requirement was stash busting. I mean, the hat is already a pretty good stash busting project because it doesn't take a lot of yarn to make one, and where there's stripes and colorwork involved, even more so. Having in mind these 3 requirements, I took my trusty stash catalog to browse. I knew I wanted something neutral, so I stopped on this dark grey sport weight yarn. It is actually 2 thin strands of fine yarn, but together they make up pretty standard sport weight. And then I started looking for a companion yarn for it, and I found this little bit of leftover black alpaca yarn. I don't have a card to show you because I used it up completely, and when the yarn is used completely, I take out the card and sample out of my stash catalog. But in the hat you can see how this grey yarn have this fluff that is black in color, and the black yarn also has a little bit of fluffiness to it, but in light color. I like them together, and I like that the black is not this saturated bright black, but more subtle. And this combination of yarns defined the rest of my design, and it is usually how it works for me. I start with the yarn. When I saw those colors together, I instantly remembered one picture in my inspirational folder, a picture of a bird of paradise. I made this screenshot of a bird from some documentary I was watching because I was inspired by its plumage. And what I liked about this picture is that in it you cannot actually see this part that this bird is famous for, this sparkly bit on the neck. So you can pay better attention to the other parts of its plumage that are often overlooked. I decided not to try and replicate this scaly shape of feathers and concentrate on transition from black to grey. Because again, I wanted something simple with manageable floats at the back, and I also decided not to limit myself to just one transition from grey to black because I had very little of this black yarn, so I couldn't make like half of the hat in black color. And that's how those colorwork stripes has come to life. I think they still totally have the vibe that I get from this paradise rifle bird, Ptiloris paradisius in Latin, hence the name of the pattern, Ptiloris Hat. And now I'm going to knit another sample, this time in different colors, and I invite you to join me. To knit Ptiloris Hat, we will need sport weight yarn of 2 colors. Approximate yardage you can get from a pattern, but even in the largest size there is like 55 grams of one color and 25 grams of another at the maximum. It is a generous approximation. I will use this light brownish color as my main color and this dark green as my contrast color. We will need circular needles for ribbing at the brim, needles for rest of the hat, and we will need needles for working the crown, where there will be 2 little stitches to work comfortably on this. I will use magic loop method, so I prepared needles with a long cable, but you can use 2 circulars or deep ends depending on what you like to work with or on what you have. Of course, these needle sizes that you see are only recommendation. To get gauge you may need other sizes, but that's knitting for you. Everyone's knitting style is different and we all have to deal with it in our own ways. Also, we will need a stitch marker to mark beginning of the round, tapestry needle to weave in the ends at the end, and if you will use my cast on method, you will need a crochet hook. For hats that start with ribbon, I always use crochet cast on. Use it if you want to get the exact same look as in the pattern, but you can totally swap it and use any cast on you like. I will demonstrate briefly how I cast on with a crochet hook, but if you want more detailed explanation, in your pattern there is a link for my crochet cast on tutorial as well as down below in the info box. We will cast on with our main yarn using crochet hook and smaller needles. The number of stitches for your size is in the pattern. First, we need to make a slip knot. I do it like that. I tension the yarn like I usually do between my fingers, and I place a crochet hook on top, pointing downward, and bring it up from underneath towards me. Let's create this sliding loop of yarn, and then I grab my working yarn and I pull it through this loop. Adjust slip knot so it's not too loose and not too tight. It should slide around easily, and then we are ready to start casting on. Tension the yarn like you usually do in knitting, with your working yarn on your forefinger and the tail on the thumb. Now take your knitting needle and place it on top of the yarn but under the hook. To get everything more stable, hold this tail end of yarn with your thumb against your needle. Now this is our working position. To make a stitch, grab the yarn and pull it through the loop. The first stitch is done. Here it is. Next, we need to return to our working position. For that, hold your newly done stitch with your thumb, slide everything to the point of the needle, allow the yarn to jump off of the needle and get to the back, and slide away from the point. Now grab the working yarn again, make a stitch, hold your new stitch, slide to the point, allow the yarn jump to the back, slide away from the point, and continue in that manner until you will cast on as many stitches as you need for your size. I cast on the amount of stitches I need for my size. They are all on my needle, and to join everything neatly in a round I will need one additional stitch. This is it on my crochet hook. I just transfer it to my needle. The hook we will no longer need. Distribute stitches evenly on the needles. Make sure not to twist them. I usually just lay my needles on some flat surface to see if my cast on edge everywhere on the same side. To join in the round, I find my last stitch. It is this one with a working yarn coming out of it, and I find my first stitch. It's the one with the tail on my right needle. Now I slip my first stitch, this one, to the left needle, and I take my last stitch and I pass it over my first one and I drop it from the needle. Pull on the working yarn as tight as you can and then transfer this stitch back to the left needle. Our very neat joint is done. When you will come to this place on the next round, you will see that there is no gap between your stitches. Now place the marker on the needle to mark the beginning of the round, and we are ready to start knitting the brim. It will be 2 by 2 ribbing. We will knit 2, 1, 2, and then purl 2, purl 1, purl 2, to the end of the round, and we will repeat last round 14 or 16 more times depending on your size. Or if you don't want to count every round, you can look up in the pattern how long the ribbon should be for each size, and you can just measure your work with a ruler and stop knitting when you get enough length. I finished knitting my ribbon, and on the next round we need to change our needle to the bigger one. I just take my bigger needle and knit to the end of the round. The smaller needle we will not knit again. Don't lose your stitch marker. If it fell off of your work, place it back. Round number 2 is different for different sizes. For sizes S and M, we will need to do decreases. It will be simple knit 2 together decreases. In pattern, you can see how many stitches you will need to knit before knitting 2 stitches together. For sizes L and XL, this is simple knit round, no decreases. Rounds 3 and 4 just knit to the end for all sizes. From the next round, round number 5, we will start colorwork pattern. The pattern provides both chart and written instructions. Let's look at the chart. Vertical column of numbers represents rounds. We are going to knit round number 5. Every repeat is 4 stitches wide. Since we are knitting from right to the left, this is how we will read our chart. White squares, main color, black squares, contrasting color. Knit 1 main color, knit 1 contrasting color, knit 2 main color. Repeat to end of the round. Colorwork charts are easiest to read because they look just like the fabric that you should get when knitting. To a beginner, I will recommend one special technique before trying to knit standard colorwork in a traditional way. I will demonstrate this technique on first several rounds. Before learning how to handle 2 or more yarns at the same time, we will work only with one yarn and we'll learn how to get the floats at the back to be of a correct length. We will make 2 passes through the next round, first with a contrasting color yarn and second with main color yarn. Take the contrasting color yarn. We will knit stitches that are black in chart and white stitches representing main yarn. We will slip to the right needle without knitting them. Chart shows that we should knit 1 main color. Instead, we will slip 1 as if to purl. Then we need to knit 1 contrasting color. Do that. Then we need to knit 2 main color. Instead, we are slipping them. 1, 2. If we mentally continue repeats one after another, we can see that it blends together to knit 3 knit 1 pattern. It just starts and ends in between second and third main color stitch. So the rhythm is slip 3. Let's slip another one. So we have 3. Once we slipped all the stitches that need to be slipped right now, before knitting our contrasting color stitch, we need to spread out stitches that we just slipped so they are not bunched up on the needle. And when you do that, don't grip your working yarn too tightly because it will form a float at the back of the work. And if you spread them wide, the float should be of a correct length. Knit 1 contrasting color and again slip 3. Spread them out so they are wide on the needle. Again knit 1, slip 3 and spread them out and knit 1. So if you look at the back of your work, you will see these floats. They are nice and relaxed. That will result in fabric that will look neat and will have good elasticity. Let's continue to the end of the round. We knitted 1. Now slip 3, spread out, knit 1, slip 3, spread them out, and the last stitches I knit 1 contrasting color and slip 2 as is on the chart. Slip your marker. Now we will make a second pass through the same round but with main color yarn. Now we will knit main color stitches and the dark ones that we just knitted we will slip. Knit 1 in main color, slip 1 in contrasting color, spread it out. The first contrasting color stitch may be a little too loose. Pull on your tail to make it more accurate. Knit 3 main color stitches and slip contrasting color stitch purlwise and spread it out. Even if it's only one stitch, you should always take time to adjust your work on the needle, because that's when the floats are forming. And even the float behind one stitch, if it's too short, can make your fabric too compressed. And continue to the end of the round. Knit 3, slip 1, spread out, knit 3, slip 1, spread out, we finished our second pass through this round number 5. Next round, round number 6, is all in main color. We already have it in our hand. Knit to the end of the round. While I'm knitting that round, let's talk more about that beginner-friendly technique. You can totally knit your color work always in that way, by making passes through the rounds of knitting with one color at a time. And it can be not just 2 colors, but any number of colors. The more colors you have, the more passes you will need to do. And the result will look great. But that method has several big disadvantages that you should know about. First is that it takes twice as long to knit like that compared to a traditional method. Second is that in a very complicated patterns, it can be easy to get lost, because there may be situations when your slipped stitches from the round below will be right next to the stitches you are knitting in the exact same color, and after your first pass it will be very easy to mistake slipped stitches and knitted stitches, so you'll have to follow your chart very carefully. I finished my round number 6, and in round number 7, let's slip our marker, we will again start with contrasting color yarn. In the chart there are 3 main color stitches followed by 1 contrasting color stitch. So let's slip 3 stitches as if to purl, spread them out, then knit 1 contrasting color stitch. Again slip 3 stitches, spread them out, and then knit your contrasting color stitch. Slip 3, spread them out, knit 1 until the end of the round. I finished my first pass through this round, and now we need to change to a main color yarn and knit 3, slip 1, spread it, knit 3, slip 1, spread it until the end of the round. Round number 7 is done. Now that you know how to handle your stitches on the needle to get the floats to be of a correct length, let's try to work with both yarns and knit all the stitches without slipping them. Round number 8 looks like knit 1 in main color, knit 1 in contrasting color, knit 2 main color. Main rule of stranded color work: you do it the same way throughout your project. Make a note to yourself or even take a picture which yarn is on the left and which is on the right. So if you take a break from this project, when you will return, you will know how to hold your yarns. With my knitting style, it does not matter which is where, but it may matter very much for you. I hold both my yarns on my forefinger. To keep them separated from each other, put your middle finger between them, like that. Now close your hand and tension the yarn like you usually do when knitting. Round number 8 starts with knitting 1 stitch in main color. Do that. And then you need to knit 1 stitch in contrasting color. And instead of slipping it, we will knit it with our contrasting color yarn. and spread your stitches just as we did when we were knitting with one yarn. Every time you are changing colors, you should spread the stitches you just knitted as wide as they would go, and while you do that, do not grip your yarn too tightly. Next are 3 stitches in a row of main color yarn. Knit 3 stitches in main color. 1, 2, 3. See how close together they are on the needle. Spread them out. When I spread them, the fabric is pulling on contrasting color yarn, and this section of yarn that I'm letting go of will become a float. Knit 1 in contrasting color, spread it, knit 3 in main color. To the end of the round. The round number 8 is done. At first it's slow going, but with practice this spreading motion will become second nature to you when you knit with 2 yarns. Round number 9, knit 3 main color, knit 1 contrasting color. Knit 3 in main color, spread it, knit 1 in contrasting color, spread it. Knit 3 in main color, spread it, knit 1 in contrasting color until the end of the round. Round number 9 is done. Round number 10, knit 1 contrasting color, knit 1 main color. When the stitches are alternating like that, it's tempting to just rush through them. It seems easier to knit one after another. But be mindful here, one stitch floats need just as much attention as spans of several stitches. Better take your time and spread each one of them. Round number 10 is done. Round number 11, knit 1 main color, knit 1 contrasting color until the end of the round. The round number 11 is done. Round number 12, knit 3 in contrasting color, knit 1, knit 2, knit 3, and then knit 1 in main color, just as before. By the way, there are many ways to hold your yarns in your left hand, and you will have to experiment with it to find the position that works for you. Some people use a ring to separate yarns. I use just my middle finger, and to me that's enough, probably because I'm picking up my yarn right from the forefinger and not from the space right here. It would be probably more difficult, but maybe not. The round number 12 is done. Rounds number 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17 are all in contrasting color, so we can drop our main color yarn and just knit in contrasting color yarn until the end of the round. Here you have two options. You can cut your main color yarn, or you can carry it upward until you will need it again. If you cut it, you will have ends to weave in later. I prefer to carry it. It doesn't get in the way too much, and then I don't have to weave in the ends, which is a big plus in my opinion. If you don't want to cut your main color yarn and want to carry it upward, every time when you at the end of this one colored round, before you start another one, just take the ball of yarn that is resting right now and twist it over the yarn you're knitting with. That way it will be carried upward like that until you need it again. I'm at the end of the round number 14. And again I need to carry my yarn that is resting upward. I'm twisting it around the yarn I'm working with and continue knitting round number 15. That way the yarn is coming upward together with my work, and on this side you cannot see it. And as you can see, the gauge of my collar work is the same as the gauge of my stocking stitch here and here, because we took our sweet time to spread the stitches on the needle when we were changing colors, and because of that we have these very even and relaxed floats. Now continue knitting by yourself, follow your charts or written instructions, or both. I would recommend you to try to use only charts and to refer to written instructions only to check yourself, and with the next project you would be able to use only charts. So I guess I will see you when the colorwork part of the hat will be done and we will start crown shaping together. I finished round number 47. This is the last round of color work, and now we can cut our contrasting color yarn, leaving a tail of 6 inches or 15 centimeters to weave in later. Now the rest of the head will be done in main color only. For different sizes, there are different number of plain rounds before crown shaping. Refer to your pattern to see how much you need to knit for your size. For sizes S and L, there would be a couple of decreases. For sizes M and XL, there will be no decreases. Knit your plain rounds and then we will begin crown shaping. The crown will be shaped with several lines of visible decreases, meaning that we will turn 3 stitches into 1 every other round. Refer to your pattern to see how many stitches you need to knit before making S2 KP decrease. I knitted the amount of stitches I needed to knit for my size before first decrease. S2 KP decrease are done like that. These 3 next stitches we will turn into 1 by inserting right needle into second and then first stitch on the left needle, slipping them, then knitting third stitch, and then we will insert our left needle into these 2 stitches that we slipped from left to right, and we will lift them over our knitted stitch and drop them from the needle. This is our S2 KP decrease. Now look in your pattern how many stitches you will need to knit before your second decrease. Knit them before doing our next S2 KP decrease. Let's see it again. Insert the right needle knitwise into second, then first stitch on your left needle, slip them, knit the next stitch, then insert your left needle from left to right through both slipped stitches, lift them over knit stitch and drop them from the needle. I finished my round with decreases, and after each decrease round there will be one simple knit round. I've knitted a part of a crown, and now there's 2 little stitches on my needle to continue working comfortably on this. So I'm going to change to 1 long circular, and I will going to use magic loop method, but you can use 2 short circulars or DPNs. It's easier to change your needle on a plain round. When changing needles it's easy to lose a stitch marker, so let's just transfer it to the fabric itself. I take my long circular and I just start knitting with it until I will have half of my stitches on it. No matter which method you would use, DPNs, 2 circulars or magic loop, you should divide stitches between needles in the middle of this wedge between decreases. And in different sizes you can have here odd or even number of stitches. If it's even, divide it in half. If it's odd, you should leave less stitches on right needle and you should leave 1 stitch more on left needle. Since I'm using magic loop method, I just pull out my cable right here and continue knitting to the end of the round. Short circle we will no longer need. And now pull on your cable, turn your work. Here the magic loop is set up. I will leave my stitch marker on the fabric, so I know where the beginning of the round is, and I will not put it on my needles because with magic loop method it is easy to lose. And in this round I again need to do decreases. Continue working the crown until you will do last round of decreases, after which you will have only 6 stitches on your needles, and then we will close the crown. The last round of decreases in different sizes are different. In my size, magic loop interferes with one of my double decreases, so instead of slipping these 2 stitches to start as 2kp, I will pull on my left needle until I remove this magic loop and will turn my work and only then I will do this decrease. I did the last round of decreases. Now I have only 6 stitches on my needles, and I can remove marker and cut the yarn, leaving approximately 6 inches of tail or 15 centimeters. Thread it into your tapestry needle. And now we will feed this tail into our stitches while removing them from the needles. Pull it closed. I like to feed the tail through the same stitches one more time. And now we need to bring the tail to the inside. Stick the needle into the middle and pull it inside. Now turn your head inside out. The last thing that we need to do is to weave in all the ends. Let's start with this tail that we brought on the inside. It's already secure enough, but make a couple of stitches here. And then weave it in, following diagonal line in your fabric. Change direction. And that should be secure enough. We have a contrasting color tail. Don't pull on it too tightly, so corresponding stitch will not disappear like that. And again weave it in on a diagonal line, changing direction at least one time. Here at the beginning of cast on there is little knot. This is our slip knot that we did when we started casting on. When we will weave in this tail in the ribbon, even after first stitch, this knot is brought on the inside and it's almost invisible. Weave the tail in the column of knit stitches in the ribbon. And the hat is done. The last thing to do is to wet block it. It will help even out stitches even more. And you can use any method you like. You can steam it, you can soak it in water and then dry flat. Whichever method you prefer will work just fine. Well, that was it for this tutorial. I hope you find it useful. The hat is done. I already blocked it to even out the stitches. The fabric turned out to be very pleasant, soft and a little bit drapey. Overall, this hat turned out to be very casual looking, like you can throw it on the whim when the weather turns a little bit chilly, a perfect transitional piece. I like how those colors look together. It has a very different effect compared to the first sample, the original design. By the way, the original sample I lined with polyester fleece to make it more wind resistant, and that way I can wear it even in the harshest winter weather and it keeps me warm and cozy. I think that I probably would do the same to this sample as well, because in my climate we have very short transitional period between seasons and otherwise I will not have a lot of opportunities to wear this hat. You do have two options: to line it if you need a warmer hat, or not to line if you need a transitional light one. And if you are interested in making a lining for your hat, which is not complicated at all, I have on my channel a tutorial on how to do it. You can find link for it below in the info box or in your PDF Ptiloris Hat pattern. Thank you for watching and I will see you soon.